The instructor had chuckled and said it was impossible. The human had raised her sword, the challenge to doctrine. The message came 3 days after Squad 7's victory. Commander Velos wanted to see Hana in his office immediately. Private meeting. Just the two of them. Hana walked through the academy corridors, her sword at her side. Other cadets stared at her now. Word of her performance in the Crucible had spread. Some looked at her with respect, others with suspicion. Change made people uncomfortable. Velos's office was high in the command tower, with windows overlooking the entire academy. He stood looking out at the training grounds when Hana entered. He did not turn around immediately. "Corporal Hana, please sit." She sat in the chair across from his desk. The office was sparse. No personal items, just tactical displays and military decorations. Velos finally turned and sat across from her. "I have been a soldier for 43 years, he said. "I have fought in 7 wars, trained thousands of warriors. I thought I had seen everything. Then you arrived with that sword and I laughed at you. Do you remember?" "Yes, sir. I was wrong to laugh. Not because your weapon is superior, it is not. Plasma rifles are objectively more powerful, but I was wrong to assume that power is the only measure of effectiveness." He pulled up a holographic display between them. "I have been analyzing your combat performance. Every movement, every deflection. The math is extraordinary." The display showed Hana's fight against Vorak in slow motion. Each sword movement was tracked. Each plasma bolt's trajectory was calculated. Numbers and equations filled the space around the images. Your blade disrupts plasma cohesion by interfering with the electromagnetic containment field. The effect is small, individually insignificant, but your technique allows you to strike bolts at the precise angle and timing to maximize disruption, and you do this while moving at combat speed under pressure, making split-second decisions. It is remarkable. My grandfather taught me the forms. My brother provided the science. I just combined them. No, you did more than combine them. You created something new." Velos leaned forward. "I need to tell you something classified. The Coalition is facing a threat. Not one we discuss publicly. An enemy called the Void Collective. They are winning." Hana sat straighter. "Winning how?" "They use adaptive technology. Every time we engage them with plasma weapons, they learn. They develop countermeasures. Their soldiers wear armor that dissipates plasma fire. Their shields absorb energy weapons. We keep escalating firepower and they keep adapting. We are losing ground slowly. Losing soldiers. And you think resonance weapons could help? I think unconventional approaches could help. Your sword is one example. There may be others. Different species, different traditions. But we have forgotten them all in our rush toward standardization." Velos pulled up another display. "I want to create a special unit. Warriors trained in close-quarters combat using modified melee weapons. You would lead the training." Hana stared at him. "Sir, I am just a corporal. I have been here for less than 2 months. Rank is not the issue. Knowledge is the issue. You know these techniques. You can teach them. And more importantly, you understand the philosophy behind them. This is not just about weapons. It is about mindset. About fighting in ways the enemy does not expect. You want me to train other humans. I want you to train anyone who will learn. Species does not matter. What matters is willingness to think differently." Velos stood and walked to the window again. "This will be controversial. Many commanders believe I am wasting resources. They say melee combat is archaic, that I am romanticizing the past instead of focusing on the future. They might be right. But you do not think so. I think the galaxy has become too comfortable with plasma weapons. We have built our entire military doctrine around them. Our tactics, our training, our defense strategies. Everything assumes plasma-based warfare. That creates a vulnerability, a massive blind spot. Your brother saw it. You proved it. Now I need to know, will you help me address it?" Hana thought about her grandfather, about the small house on the mountain where he had taught her to move like water. To be flexible, to never assume the current method was the only method. He had lived through wars where technology changed everything. But he always said the same thing. Tools change. Warriors adapt. Yes, sir. I will help. Velos nodded slowly. Good, because you need to understand what you are agreeing to. This will not be easy. You will face resistance from other cadets, from instructors, from high-ranking officers who think I am senile. You will be teaching warriors who have trained their entire lives in one style to abandon it and learn something new. Many will resent you. I understand. I hope you do. Velos returned to his desk and pulled up a personnel file. There are 4 other humans at this academy. I have reviewed their backgrounds. One is named June. He has training in traditional spear techniques from Earth. Another is Mina, skilled in staff combat. The others have various martial backgrounds. I want you to recruit them, form a core teaching group. Over the next week, Hana met with each human recruit. June was tall and quiet with careful eyes. When she showed him what the resonance blade could do, he understood immediately. He had been training with a plasma spear but kept getting criticized for his unorthodox style. My grandfather taught me the spear, June said. In Korea, the spear was the king of weapons. Longer reach than swords, versatile. I have been trying to adapt traditional techniques to plasma weapons, but they do not translate well. This, though. He held the modified spear Taeho had sent from Earth. This could work. Mina was more skeptical. She was a practical fighter, focused on results. But when Hana demonstrated deflecting plasma bolts, Mina's expression changed. How long did it take you to learn that? 20 years, Hana said honestly. My grandfather started teaching me when I was 6. But you do not need 20 years to become functional. You need dedication and proper instruction. I can teach you the fundamentals in months. Mastery takes longer. Months is fast for military training, Mina said.
She smiled.
All right, I am in. Show me what human stubbornness can accomplish. Word spread quietly through the academy. Some cadets approached Hana asking to learn. Tisk, of course, continued his training. But others came too. A young Draxian named Sina, who happened to be Vorak's younger sister. She had watched the Crucible match and saw her brother's defeat not as shame but as lesson. Vorak told me to find you, Sina said. He said you fight with honor. That your techniques come from deep tradition. I want to learn. Teaching was harder than Hana expected. Each species moved differently. Draxians were strong but not flexible. Quellan had multiple arms but struggled with the flowing forms designed for 2-armed species. Humans adapted quickly because they had cultural memory of blade combat, but even they struggled with the precision required. Hana found herself channeling her grandfather's patience. Slow down, she would tell students. Speed comes from smoothness. Smoothness comes from understanding. Understand the movement first. Late one night she received a communication from Earth, not from Taeho this time. From the Korean Ministry of Defense. They wanted to discuss her training program. They had been following her progress. Resonance weapons were now a priority project. We are establishing a research facility, the official said. His face was serious on the screen. Combining traditional weapons masters with modern physicists. Your brother is heading the team. We believe this technology could change how humanity contributes to the coalition military. But we need field testing, real combat data. I am just one soldier with one sword, Hana said. You are the proof of concept. That is more valuable than you realize. You have shown the galaxy that old methods have merit. Now we need to scale it up, train more warriors, create more weapons, develop doctrine. After the call ended, Hana sat in the darkness of her quarters and felt the weight of expectation. She had just wanted to honor her family's tradition. Now that tradition was becoming a military program. It felt strange, wrong somehow. She drew her sword and practiced the basic forms, the ones her grandfather had taught her first. Simple movements, foundational. There was comfort in the routine, meditation through motion, a knock at her door. It was Krill. I saw your light was on, thought you might want company. They sat together in silence for a while. Finally, Krill spoke. Velos told me about the special unit, about the Void Collective. He wants Squad 7 to be the first field test. What do you think? I think we are going to fight an enemy that has beaten every standard tactic the Coalition uses. I think our chances are not good. But I also think if anyone can find a way to win, it is us. We already proved everyone wrong once. This will be different. No stun weapons, no safety protocols, real combat. I know. Krill looked at her with his amber eyes. That is why I volunteered. All of Squad 7 volunteered. Tisk, Gron, Rila. Even Vex and Chur want back in the squad for this mission. We believe in what you showed us, not just the weapon, the philosophy behind it. The next morning, Commander Velos called another assembly. This time it was not the entire academy, just selected squads. Elite warriors, the best fighters from each division. You have been chosen for a special assignment, Velos announced. It will be dangerous. Some of you may not return, But if successful, it will change how the crucible, the arena was full. 50,000 spectators from across the galaxy filled the seats, their voices creating a sound like distant thunder. Hana stood in the preparation chamber with Squad 7, checking her equipment one last time. The sword hung at her side, familiar and comforting. Through the walls, she could hear the crowd's excitement building. First match is always the hardest, Krill said. He was checking his plasma rifle, running diagnostics. The adrenaline is too high. Easy to make mistakes. Who do we face? Tisk asked. His forearms moved nervously, adjusting his gear. Squad 1, led by Vorak. The name brought silence. Everyone knew Vorak, a Draxian champion who had never lost a combat exercise. His squad had trained together for 6 months and moved like a single organism. They were predicted to win the entire tournament. Well, Gron rumbled, at least we get the impossible match out of the way first. Rila laughed, but it sounded forced. Optimism. I appreciate that, a horn sounded. The preparation chamber doors opened. Squad 7 walked into the arena. The roar of the crowd washed over them like a physical force. Lights blazed down from above. Holographic displays showed their squad designation and stats. On the other side of the arena, Squad 1 emerged. 7 Draxians, all larger than Krill, all moving with predatory grace. Vorak led them, his scales almost black, his eyes cold and calculating. The arena floor transformed. Buildings rose from hidden platforms. Streets appeared. Smoke machines created a hazy atmosphere. Within seconds, they stood in a simulated war zone. A ruined city with crumbling structures and dangerous sightlines. Perfect for ambush combat. Commander Velos's voice echoed across the arena. Standard rules apply. Stun weapons only. Contact that registers as lethal will eliminate you from the match. Last squad standing wins. Begin in 30 seconds, Hana drew her sword. Around her, her squad checked their weapons one final time. Krill gave quick orders. Defensive formation initially. Let them come to us. Hana, stay center. We create openings, you exploit them. Everyone else, suppressing fire and tactical retreat. Make them chase us into prepared positions. The timer reached 0. A buzzer sounded. Squad 1 vanished into the ruins immediately, moving with practiced efficiency. They knew how to use terrain, how to control sightlines. Move, Krill ordered. Squad 7 advanced carefully using cover. Rilla took a high position on a damaged building. Cheer scouted ahead using enhanced sensory equipment. Gron provided mobile cover with his massive frame. The first plasma bolts came from 3 directions simultaneously. Vex took a hit to the chest and went down, his armor registering a lethal strike. The computer announced his elimination. Cheer barely avoided another bolt, ducking behind rubble. They are flanking us, Tisk reported. 3 from the left, 2 from the right. Vorak is still hidden. Fall back to the intersection, Krill ordered. Fighting retreat. Rila, suppressing fire on the left flank. They moved as practiced, providing covering fire for each other. But Squad 1 was relentless. They pressed the attack, coordinating perfectly. Another bolt caught Chur. Eliminated. Now they were 5 against 7. Hana stayed in the center of the formation, her blade ready but useless at this range. Frustration burned in her chest. They were being picked apart. Then Vorak appeared. He came from an unexpected angle, dropping from a building with 3 of his warriors. They landed directly in front of Squad 7's position, cutting off the retreat. Plasma rifles aimed with deadly precision. Surrender, Vorak said calmly. You are surrounded and outnumbered. This match is over. Krill looked at Hana. Their eyes met. This was the moment they had planned for. The moment when standard tactics failed and desperate innovation became their only chance. Now, Krill said. Hana moved. She did not charge directly at Vorak. That would be suicide. Instead, she ran perpendicular to his position, toward a narrow alley between 2 buildings. Vorak's squad fired, but Hana was already moving in the flowing patterns her grandfather had taught her. She seemed to sense where the bolts would be before they arrived. Ducking, weaving. The plasma fire passed around her like water around a stone. She reached the alley. Vorak's warriors followed, thinking they had her trapped. They were wrong. The alley was narrow. Too narrow for multiple combatants to fire effectively. Hana turned and faced them, her blade raised. 2 Draxians entered the alley, rifles aimed. They fired simultaneously. Hana's sword became a blur. The blade moved in precise arcs, following forms that were 200 years old. The plasma bolts struck the steel and dispersed, their electromagnetic cohesion broken by the resonance field Taeho had embedded in the metal. Light and heat scattered harmlessly. The crowd gasped. Even through the roar, Hana heard it. That sound of disbelief. She advanced. The Draxians fired again. Again. Their training said plasma cut through everything, but Hana's blade defied their training. She closed the distance in seconds, one strike, clean and precise. Her sword touched the first warrior's chest armor. No edge could pierce the armor, but the computer registered the impact. Eliminated. The second warrior swung his rifle like a club. Hana ducked under it, flowing like water, and struck his leg. Eliminated. She emerged from the alley to find chaos. While Vorak's attention had been on her, Krill had led a counterattack. Gron's massive frame had provided cover for a flanking maneuver. Rila's precise shooting had taken down another opponent. Now it was 4 against 4. Vorak stared at Hana with new respect. And perhaps something else, concern. Interesting weapon, he said, but let us see how it handles sustained fire. He and his remaining warriors opened up together, a coordinated barrage of plasma fire that lit up the arena. The crowd screamed. This was what they came to see. Overwhelming firepower. Hana did not try to block it all. That would be impossible. Instead, she moved, constantly, using the terrain, using her blade to deflect what she could and dodging what she could not. Her training with Commander Velos came back to her. Human endurance, human persistence. She did not need to be faster than the plasma. She just needed to keep moving longer than they could keep firing. Tisk joined her. The Quellan had been learning her techniques, and now he put them to use. 2 fighters with resonance blades, creating a defensive pattern that split enemy fire. They covered each other's weaknesses, moving in synchronized harmony. Vorak's squad began to spread out, trying to create crossfire angles. But in doing so, they exposed themselves to Krill and Rila's shooting. Another warrior went down, then another. Now it was 4 against 2. Vorak and one other warrior remained. Impressive, Vorak admitted. He ejected his depleted power cell and loaded a fresh one. But I have not survived 50 matches by giving up when things get difficult. He changed tactics. Instead of trying to hit Hana at range, he advanced. His warrior provided covering fire while Vorak closed distance rapidly. If Hana was dangerous close-up, then he would match her there. Draxians were physically stronger than humans. In melee combat, strength should win. They met in the center of the destroyed street. Vorak swung his rifle like a staff. Hana blocked with her blade. The impact rang out across the arena. They traded blows. Vorak was powerful, each strike backed by massive muscle. But Hana was fluid. She did not try to match his strength. She redirected it. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her memory. Do not fight the river's current. Move with it. Guide it. Vorak overextended on a strike. Hana slipped inside his guard and placed her blade against his throat. The computer registered the touch. Lethal strike eliminated. Vorak looked down at the sword, then at Hana. Slowly, he nodded. I understand now. Your weapon is not obsolete. We are obsolete for forgetting that weapons are only as effective as the warrior wielding them. He stepped back, raised his hand in salute, then walked off the arena floor. The last warrior of Squad 1, seeing his leader defeated, stood down. Squad 7 had won. The crowd erupted. The sound was deafening. Holographic displays replayed key moments. Hana deflecting plasma with her blade. Tisk's forearm defensive patterns. Krill's tactical genius. A squad that should not have won. But did. Hana stood in the center of the arena, her sword still raised, and felt tears on her face. Not tears of joy, though she was joyful. Tears of release, of validation. Her grandfather's tradition had been honored. His teachings had proven true. The other squads would be different now. They had seen what was possible. They would adapt, prepare. The next matches would be harder. But for this moment, Squad 7 had done the impossible. They had taken obsolete steel and proven it could stand against the modern galaxy. Commander Velos appeared on the central platform. He looked at Hana with something that might have been pride. You have all witnessed something significant, he announced to the crowd. Not just a victory, a reminder. Technology advances. Weapons change. But the principles of combat are eternal. Skill, courage, innovation. Never underestimate an opponent because their methods are old. Sometimes the oldest methods survive because they work. As Squad 7 left the arena, Hana caught a message on her communication device. It was from Taeho. Just 3 words, grandfather would smile. Hana smiled too. Then she prepared for the next match. They had won 1 battle. The tournament had just begun, but now everyone knew. You could block plasma with steel. If you had the right steel, the right technique, and the right spirit. The science of the Blade Commander Velos called a full assembly 3 weeks into training. All squads gathered in the main arena, thousands of recruits from hundreds of worlds. The arena could hold 50,000 spectators, and today it was empty except for the soldiers. The silence felt heavy. Velos stood on the central platform, his voice amplified across the space. In 1 month you will face the Crucible, a tournament where squads compete in live fire exercises. The scenarios are real. The danger is real. Only stun weapons, but pain is still pain. The losing squads will face expulsion from the academy. A murmur ran through the crowd. Expulsion meant failure, shame. A return home without honor. You have been training as individuals, Velos continued. Now you must become units. Squads that think as one, fight as one. Because in the real galaxy, against real enemies there is no second place. There is only survival or death. After the assembly, Squad 7 gathered in their common room. Krill stood before them, arms crossed. Besides Hana and Tisk, there were 4 others, 2 Draxians named Vex and Rila, a Klicken called Cheer, and a massive Borgan warrior named Gron. 7 members. 7 very different fighters. We are the lowest ranked squad in our division, Krill said bluntly. Other squads have been training together for months. Some have members from the same worlds who already know how to coordinate. We have only weeks. And we have, he glanced at Hana, unusual circumstances. Say what you mean, Hana replied. You think I am a weakness. I think you are different. Different can be weakness, or it can be advantage. I have not decided yet, Tisk spoke up. I have been training with Hana. Her techniques are effective. More effective than any of you realize. Effective in a training room with low-power dummies, Rila said. The female Draxian was a sharpshooter, fast and precise. Combat is chaos. Can she perform under real pressure? Only one way to find out, Gron rumbled. The Borgan's voice sounded like rocks grinding together. We must practice as a unit. They spent every free moment training together. Hana continued her secret experiments with the sword, learning its capabilities. Tisk practiced the traditional forms, adapting them to his 4-armed physiology. The others focused on standard tactics but began to understand how to create openings for Hana to close distance. Late one night, Hana was alone in a practice room, testing her blade against a training barrier. It was the kind of shield used to protect vital equipment in combat zones. Solid light, they called it. Electromagnetic energy shaped into a physical barrier. She struck the barrier with her sword. The blade passed through it like it was not there. The barrier flickered and died. Hana stared. Tried again. Same result. The sword disrupted the barrier's cohesion field. A door opened behind her. She spun, blade raised. It was Krill. He stood in the doorway, watching her with his amber eyes. I have been observing your training. Following you, actually. I needed to know if you were a liability. And your conclusion? My conclusion is that you are dangerous. In a good way. Krill moved into the room. That blade of yours does something to energy fields. I have seen you deflect plasma. Now I see you break barriers. How? Hana hesitated. Then she explained about Taeho's modifications. The electromagnetic coils. The way they disrupted plasma containment and energy fields. Krill listened carefully, his tactical mind clearly working. This changes things, he said finally. Our squad has been trying to fight like every other squad. Ranged combat. Standard tactics. We cannot win that way because we have less experience. But if we use your sword as a primary weapon instead of a last resort, you want to build tactics around me? I want to build tactics around winning. Your blade breaks energy shields. That means you can reach enemies that others cannot. You can strike targets that standard weapons cannot touch. Combined with suppressing fire from the rest of the squad, you become an assault weapon. Over the next 2 weeks, they developed new strategies. Hana studied her grandfather's forms more deeply, understanding how each movement could apply to modern combat. The flowing circular motions were perfect for deflecting plasma bolts. The quick strikes worked for breaking energy barriers. The defensive stances provided minimal profile for enemy targeting. Tisk proved to be a natural student. His forearms let him wield 2 blades simultaneously. creating a defensive pattern that was nearly impenetrable. Hana taught him what she knew, and he taught her about Quellan flexibility and multiple limb coordination. One evening, Hana received another message from Tai-Ho. His face on the screen looked tired but excited. I have been working with other researchers here on Earth. We are calling them resonance weapons. The principle is simple. Use traditional craftsmanship combined with modern physics. The Korean government is interested. So is the Japanese Self-Defense Force. They see what we see, that advancing technology creates vulnerabilities. Every species in the galaxy uses plasma weapons now, which means every species has built their defenses around plasma weapons. Your sword is something different, something they cannot anticipate. Hana paused the message and looked at her blade. She had thought of it as a family heirloom, a link to the past. But Tai-Ho saw it as the future, a weapon that moved forward by going back. She resumed the message. I am sending you some theoretical data about plasma physics, specifically about how plasma bolts maintain cohesion over distance. There might be ways to deflect them at range using precise blade movements. I know it sounds impossible, but you have already done impossible things. The data file came through. Hana spent hours studying it. The math was complex, but the principle was clear. Plasma bolts lost cohesion over distance. If she could disrupt them early in their flight path before they fully formed, she could deflect them from much farther away than she had been trying. It required perfect timing, perfect precision, the kind of discipline that took years to develop. Good thing she had been training since childhood. She practiced through the night. Tisk joined her after a few hours, and together they worked on synchronized movements. Two fighters with resonance blades, moving in patterns that covered each other's weaknesses. Commander Velos found them at dawn, still training. He stood in the doorway for a long moment before speaking. I have been watching your progress. All of you in Squad 7. You have improved more rapidly than any other low-ranked squad I have seen in 30 years of teaching. We have motivation, Hana said. You have more than motivation. You have innovation. Velos walked around them, examining their stances. I spoke to your brother, Corporal Hana. He contacted me directly. Explained what he did to your blade. Shared his research data. He asked permission to create more resonance weapons for other humans at this academy. What did you say? I said no. Hana's heart sank. I said no because it is not my decision. It is the Coalition Council's decision. And they are very interested. Velos smiled, showing sharp teeth. Your brother's research has reached the highest levels of military command. They see what I see, a potential solution to tactical stagnation. So yes, he can make more weapons. And yes, other humans can train in these techniques. But first we have to prove it works in the Crucible, Hana finished. Exactly. Win your matches and you prove that old ways have a place in the new galaxy. Lose and the Council will classify this as an interesting failure. Human sentiment, not worth pursuing. After Velos left, Tisk turned to Hana. No pressure then. No pressure at all, Hana agreed. They returned to training. The Crucible was 2 weeks away. They would face the best squads in their division. Squads with more experience, better coordination, and complete confidence in modern weapons. Squad 7 had a woman with a sword, and a growing belief that impossible was just a word. Krill gathered them all for a final briefing before the tournament. His amber eyes swept across each member. We are not the strongest squad. We are not the most experienced. But we are going to win. Do you know why? Because we are different, Gron rumbled. Because we are desperate, Chir clicked. Because we have a secret weapon, Rila said, looking at Hana. Krill shook his head. No, we are going to win because we understand something that other squads have forgotten. Weapons change. Technology advances, but the principles of combat remain the same. Know your strengths, exploit enemy weaknesses, and never fight the battle they expect. He placed his clawed hand on Hana's shoulder. They will expect plasma rifles, energy barriers, standard tactics. They will not expect a woman with a sword who can cut through their defenses like they do not exist. That is our advantage. That is how we win. Hana looked at her squad members. 7 warriors from different worlds, different species, different fighting styles, united by a common goal and a shared understanding that victory often comes from unexpected places. She drew her grandfather's sword. The blade caught the light dark steel gleaming, Then let us show them what steel can do. The fundamentals. The first training simulation was a disaster. Squad 7 stood in the virtual combat zone, a digital recreation of a hostile urban environment. Buildings rose around them, broken and burned. Enemy combatants appeared from windows and doorways, firing plasma weapons that left scorch marks on the walls. The goal was simple: reach the extraction point alive. Hana barely made it 20 meters. The problem was obvious. Her squad moved in patterns designed for ranged combat. They took cover, fired their plasma rifles, advanced in coordinated bursts. Hana tried to keep up, but her sword was useless at range. By the time she got close enough to strike, the simulation enemies had already tagged her with stun markers. Dead, the computer announced in a flat voice. Eliminated. Return to start position. She respawned back at the beginning and tried again, and died again, and again. After the fifth failure, Krill stopped the simulation. The other squad members stood around, frustrated. Krill pointed one clawed finger at Hana. "You are dead weight," he said. His scales rippled with annoyance. "Every time you try to close distance, you expose the entire squad. You cannot provide covering fire. You cannot suppress enemy positions. What exactly can you do?" Hana had no good answer. In this type of combat, he was right. Her sword was useless. "I can learn," she said quietly. "Learn what?" "How to throw your sword." Krill made a disgusted sound. "Switch to a plasma rifle. Stop being stubborn about tradition. This is warfare, not a cultural exhibition." Tisk stepped forward. The Quellan had been quiet during the exercise, but now he spoke up. "Perhaps we are using her wrong. Close quarters combat still exists. Boarding actions. Indoor facilities. Places where plasma rifles are too large or too dangerous. Then she can carry a plasma pistol like everyone else," Krill snapped. "I am not redesigning squad tactics around one human and her pet sword." The argument might have continued, but an instructor appeared. It was Commander Velos observing their training. He had been watching from the control booth. "Enough," Velos said. "Corporal Hana with me. The rest of you run the simulation again." Hana followed Velos out of the training room. He led her down a corridor to a smaller chamber. Inside were basic exercise equipment and combat dummies. Velos gestured for her to enter. "You are failing," he said bluntly. "Yes, sir." "Do you know why?" "My weapon is not suited for modern combat, sir." Velos tilted his head, studying her. "No, that is not the reason. Your weapon is fine for what it does. The problem is that you are trying to fight like everyone else. You are not everyone else." He walked to a control panel and activated one of the combat dummies. It raised a training plasma rifle and aimed at Hana. "Dodge," Velos commanded. The dummy fired. Hana threw herself to the side and the plasma bolt passed where she had been standing. Again. For the next hour, Velos made her dodge. He increased the difficulty gradually. 2 dummies, 3, 4, firing from different angles. Hana rolled, ducked, jumped, twisted. Her muscles burned. Sweat soaked through her uniform. But she kept moving. Finally, Velos called a halt. Hana stood gasping for air. Every part of her hurt. "You outlasted those dummies' entire power cells," Velos said. "Do you know what that means?" "It means you have something most species in the Coalition do not have. Endurance. Humans are persistence hunters. Your species evolved to chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. You do not have scales or claws or great strength. But you do not quit." Hana straightened despite the pain. "What good is endurance if I cannot reach my enemy?" "That is what you must learn. How to close distance. How to survive long enough to use that sword." Velos pointed at her blade. "Your weapon is not obsolete. Your tactics are obsolete. Develop new tactics." He left her alone in the training room. Hana looked at the deactivated combat dummies and thought about what Velos had said. She was trying to be like everyone else, but she was not everyone else. She drew her sword and began to practice the forms her grandfather had taught her. Slow, flowing movements. Each one had a purpose: defense, attack, evasion. For 200 years, warriors had used these forms against enemies with spears, with arrows, with guns. Could they work against plasma? That night, Hana went to the academy library. It was massive, filled with data terminals that connected to the entire Coalition knowledge network. She searched for information about plasma weapons. How they worked, how they fired, their limitations. Plasma weapons, she learned, used electromagnetic fields to contain and direct superheated matter. The bolts traveled fast but not instantaneously. They required a moment to charge between shots. They had predictable firing patterns. Everything could be dodged if you knew how. She spent hours studying combat footage, battles between coalition forces and various enemies. She watched how plasma bolts moved, how soldiers took cover. She saw patterns, rhythms. A message appeared on her terminal. It was from Tejo. Time delayed from Earth. I hope training is going well. I wanted to explain something about the sword. I did not just strengthen the steel. I embedded microscopic coils throughout the molecular structure. They generate a weak electromagnetic field when the blade moves through certain energy frequencies. I do not know if it will help, but I thought it might. Hana read the message 3 times. Electromagnetic field, like the fields that contained plasma. She looked at her sword with new understanding. Tejo had not just given her a weapon. He had given her a tool that might interact with the very technology that was supposed to make it obsolete. She needed to test this. The training halls were empty at night. Hana went to one of the smaller combat rooms and activated a single dummy with a plasma rifle. She set it to minimum power and slow fire rate. The dummy aimed, fired. Hana did not dodge this time. She raised her sword and tried to block the bolt. The plasma hit her blade. For an instant, Hana thought it would melt through, just like Velos had demonstrated. But something strange happened. The bolt distorted. Its shape bent around the blade like water hitting a rock. Most of the energy dissipated harmlessly. A small amount splashed past, burning her sleeve, but the main force was deflected. Hana stared at her sword. The blade showed no damage. No melting. The metal had not even heated up. She tried again. This time she angled the blade differently. The plasma bolt skittered off completely, hitting the wall behind her. Again, and again. She experimented with different angles, different movements. Each time the blade dispersed or deflected the plasma in ways that seemed impossible. Her grandfather's forms took on new meaning. The circular motions, the flowing transitions, they were perfect for redirecting energy rather than absorbing it. The ancient techniques combined with Tejo's modifications created something new, something that might actually work. The door opened. Tisk stood there, all 4 eyes wide. I saw the practice room was active. I wanted to make sure everything was okay. But you are blocking plasma. How? Hana lowered her sword. My brother modified the blade. Electromagnetic coils. They interact with the plasma containment fields. That should not be possible. The energy output of a plasma bolt is too high. I am not stopping the bolt. I am disrupting its cohesion. Breaking the electromagnetic containment. The plasma disperses before it can transfer its full heat energy. Tisk moved closer, examining the blade with fascination. This is brilliant. Completely unorthodox. No wonder it looks like simple steel. The modifications are microscopic. He looked at Hana. Can you teach me? Teach you what? Whatever techniques you are developing. I have watched you practice those flowing forms. They are beautiful, and clearly they work. My people had similar traditions once. I would like to learn them again. Hana considered this. Her grandfather had taught her the forms as a family tradition. But he had also said that true knowledge should be shared with those who would respect it. Tisk was genuine. She could see it in his stance, his careful words. Yes, she said, I can teach you. But it will take time. These forms require patience. I have patience, Tisk said. They trained together until the morning bells rang. Basic forms. Basic footwork. Tisk was clumsy at first, his forearms getting in the way. But he was dedicated. He listened. He learned. When dawn came, Hana felt something she had not felt since arriving at the academy. Hope. Maybe her sword was not obsolete. Maybe the old ways still had value. The next day, Squad 7 ran the simulation again. Hana still struggled, but this time, she managed to survive longer. She dodged better, moved smarter, and once, just once, she deflected a plasma bolt with her blade. Krill said nothing, but Hana saw him watching, calculating. She had proven that steel could touch plasma and survive. Now she needed to prove she could win. The obsolete weapon. The transport ship descended through the purple clouds of Viridian Prime, and Corporal Hana pressed her face against the window. Below, the Galactic Military Academy stretched across the valley like a silver spiderweb. Thousands of buildings connected by gleaming bridges, training grounds that could hold entire armies. This was where warriors from hundreds of worlds learned to fight together. Hana touched the wrapped bundle beside her seat. Inside was a sword, not a plasma blade or an energy weapon, just steel. Old steel that her grandfather had given her before he died. The same sword his grandfather had carried. Forged in the traditional way, folded metal that had been in her family for over 200 years. The other passengers stared at her. A group of Draxian soldiers sat across the aisle. They were tall and reptilian, with scales that shimmered like oil on water. One of them pointed at her bundle and made a clicking sound. The others laughed. Hana understood enough Draxian to know they were making jokes about humans and their primitive ways. She ignored them. Her grandfather had taught her that much. A warrior does not respond to insults with words. The ship landed with a gentle thump. Hana grabbed her gear and followed the crowd toward the academy entrance. The air smelled different here, cleaner, more processed. Earth's air had character, her brother Tae-ho always said. It had pollution and ocean salt and the smell of street food. This air tasted like nothing. Hundreds of new recruits filled the massive courtyard. Hana saw species she had only read about in training manuals. The insectoid Klicken with their chittering mandibles, the four-armed Quellen who moved with liquid grace, the massive Borgan warriors who stood 3 meters tall, and humans, maybe 30 of them in total, scattered through the crowd like drops of water in an ocean. A voice boomed across the courtyard. "Formation now!" Everyone scrambled into lines. Hana found herself between a Klicken soldier who smelled like copper and a Quellen who kept glancing at her with all 4 eyes. The instructors walked between the rows, examining each recruit. They were all Draxian, Hana noticed. The coalition military seemed to trust them with training duties. Commander Velos stopped in front of Hana. He was older than the other Draxians, with scars across his snout and medals on his chest. His eyes were the color of amber, and they looked at Hana like she was something amusing. "A human," he said. His voice was deep and rough. "We have been waiting for your kind. Earth finally decided to join the big universe, yes?" "Yes, sir," Hana replied. "Good. Show me your weapon." Hana hesitated. Around her, other recruits were displaying their plasma rifles, their energy blades, their projectile weapons with smart ammunition. She unwrapped her bundle slowly. The sword emerged into the artificial light. It was beautiful in its simplicity. The blade was dark steel with a slight curve. The handle was wrapped in old leather. There were no power cells, no energy coils, no targeting systems. Just metal and wood and leather. Commander Velos stared at it. Then he started to laugh. It was not a kind laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had just heard an excellent joke. Other instructors walked over to see what was so funny. Soon a dozen Draxian warriors were looking at Hana's sword and laughing. "This is your weapon?" Velos asked, still chuckling. "This piece of metal?" "Yes, sir." "Do you know what we fight with in the modern galaxy?" Velos pulled his own weapon from his belt. It was a plasma cutter, a tool used for breaking through ship hulls. He activated it, and a beam of superheated plasma extended from the handle. "We fight with this." He walked to a nearby target dummy. It was made of steel plating, the kind used in ship armor. Velos pressed the plasma cutter against it. The metal began to glow. It turned red, then orange, then white. It melted like butter under a hot knife. Within seconds, the plasma beam had cut completely through. Velos deactivated his weapon and turned back to Hana. "You cannot block plasma with steel, human. Your weapon will melt. You will melt. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir." "Then why do you carry it?" Hana thought about her grandfather. She remembered him in his small house on the mountainside, teaching her the forms, the way he moved despite his age, flowing like water, the stories he told about their ancestors who had carried this sword into battle. Not because it was the best weapon, but because it connected them to something larger than themselves. "It is my family's sword, sir," Hana said simply. Velos studied her for a long moment. Then he shook his head. "Tradition, sentiment, these things do not win battles. But you will learn. The galaxy is a harsh teacher." He moved on to the next recruit. The Quellen beside Hana leaned closer with one of his 4 arms. "That was rough," he whispered. His voice sounded like wind through grass. "I am Tisk. Your name?" "Hana. That sword is very old, yes?" "Very old. My people also used blades once, before the plasma weapons came, before we joined the coalition. There were warriors who could cut through steel with a single strike. The old stories say so." "Do you believe the old stories?" Hana asked. Tisk was quiet for a moment. "I do not know. The old stories say many things, but I think there is truth in them somewhere." The day continued with processing. Medical scans, equipment assignment, quarters designation. Hana was placed in Squad 7, the lowest-ranked training unit. The squad leader was a Draxian named Krill, and he made it clear what he thought of having a human in his squad. "Try not to die too quickly," he told her. "It creates paperwork." That night, Hana lay in her bunk and unpacked her few belongings. There was a data pad with messages from home. She opened the most recent one from Tejo. Her brother's face appeared on the screen, smiling despite the late hour. "Hey, little sister, by the time you see this, you will be at the academy. I know Commander Velos gave you trouble about the sword. Do not worry, I made some modifications before you left. Nothing that changes the fundamental structure. Just some adjustments at the molecular level. Trust me on this." Hana paused the message. Modifications? Tejo was a physicist, but he had never mentioned changing the sword. She looked at the blade resting against the wall. It looked the same as always. The message continued. "I have been studying plasma weapons and their containment fields. There is something interesting about how they work. Something that traditional metals might interact with in unexpected ways. I cannot say more now. Just trust the sword. Trust yourself. And remember what grandfather always said." Hana smiled. She knew what her grandfather always said. She whispered it to herself in the darkness. "The blade is not the weapon, you are. The blade is just honest about it." Outside her window, Viridian Prime's 3 moons rose over the academy. Tomorrow, the real training would begin. Tomorrow, she would have to prove that an ancient sword had a place in the modern galaxy. Tomorrow, she would begin to understand what Tejo had done to the family blade. But tonight, she simply held the sword and thought of home. She thought of mountains and small houses and old men who moved like water. She thought of 200 years of warriors who had carried this blade and trusted it with their lives. She would not be the one to break that trust, even if the entire galaxy laughed at her.